Welcome to Surrounded by Sports, the podcast. This is our first video podcast, our first venture into the next phase of our local sports coverage, Northwest Florida Panhandle Sports, with Coach, Athletic Director, Pensacola News Journal Coach of the Year, I believe, Jade Brown.
What's going on, Kevin? Thank you for having me. I appreciate it. I'm very honored, and I'm looking forward to chatting with you. And as always, go Knicks.
Yes, let's go Knicks. Oh, here we go, Coach. How about that?
Oh yeah, that's sweet right there. Oh man, that's a nice one.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Okay, so I got thrown off right there because I want to talk Knicks. That's what I want to talk about. But you know what? We got more important things to talk about because we're going to talk about you. I'm the host, Kevin Perkins, and today we hope to discuss so much enthusiasm, searching for knowledge, bringing communities together, and some of the keys to Coach Brown's success, both with basketball and with the student body in general, and with her life, which obviously she is doing very well at. She's Coach of the Year. She's a fantastic coach. You've excelled and become an athletic director. But first, let's start in the present with the Jade Chronicles. I saw today.
It's funny, you know. It's just something that I don't even know how I got started on it. I think one day I got on Facebook and I made a morning chronicle, and that's what I call it. I started doing like on Mondays, and it's just a lot of what I discuss in that 30 seconds, 30 to 40, maybe sometimes a minute. I'll go 45 to about a minute. Just kind of some things that I've probably gone through. And through that week or that month or whatever, and just trying to offer some words of encouragement to others that follow me. But also, I'm a believer of Christ, and putting some stuff out there that God has put on my mind, and sharing a Bible verse to get us through. So it's funny though, Kevin, because I started with a little bit more consistency probably about a year or two ago, trying to do one every month. So I try to do like the first Monday of the month. And when I don't do them, what amazes me is how many people contact me or stop me and say, hey, where's the JB Chronicle? I need it. I want it. And so that's what kind of got me being more consistent with it. And during basketball season, we always kind of take a break from social media to kind of sacrifice some things, myself and the girls. And so during basketball season, like kind of that end point, I kind of take a break from it. So this year, I think I did one. The month of February, I didn't do one. And then once the season ended, I actually just did one. So I kind of always discuss some things that I have going on, but I always like to let people know that God is still in control. So it's not just me making up a quote. I do try to tie it into a Bible verse that's been impacting me and things that I'm going through. And if I could just touch one person that morning, that's just my goal, to make somebody smile and make people happy. So I enjoy doing my JB Chronicles.
Right. Well, yesterday you talked about basically people being critical of you that don't know you or that shouldn't affect you. You don't allow negativity into yourself. And I think you have an infectious way about you, right? You operate with enthusiasm, you operate through joy, and that's where you come from. And you don't allow negativity in, or at least you try not to, right?
That is the key. I try not to. Right. and to be honest with you, I've been coaching for 13 years, the head coach here, the AD for 3, and 15 years in total at the school. So I haven't always been that way. And what I mean by it, my mom, we talk all the time, and we talk about, when we were younger, me and you probably were told sticks and stones, may break your bones, but words will never hurt you. I think that's I don't agree with that anymore. Words are very powerful. The tongue is very powerful, and the things that we say, and depending on who's saying it, can have an impact on us. So I've tried to, probably since really, I would say 2016 is when I kind of shifted a big part of my mindset. And that was the 2015, the spring of 2015, going into the school year of 2016. And the school year of the school year of 2015, 2016 was my first district championship. Mm-hmm. And that was the first book I read with my team, which was The Energy Bus by John Gordon. And so that book really shaped my mindset and my focus of, not allowing, the negativity take an impact over my mind, but find the joy and the positivity in every situation. So I'm not a negative, I'm not a Debbie Downer. I have always been somebody that tries to, be as positive as possible. But I think coaching young ladies and the things that I've experienced have really, really helped shape me to remain positive. Reading as well, which I know you gave me some books that I've knocked out already.
Right.
But when I said that last week, it's funny. I ran into somebody yesterday and they were like, "Man, you have such tough skin." I was like, sometimes it may seem that way, but I try to stay in my word and read my Bible and keeping my focus on things that make me happy. And it's not easy ignoring the negativity, but it makes you a lot more happier. You know what I mean? So I try my best to stay positive. And one thing a motto I kind of live by: ignore the critics and show up and do the work. Somebody's going to criticize you regardless
Right.
of what you're doing. And if you're not in my circle and not helping me to grow, I could care less of what you think about me, honestly,
Right.
because I'm trying to do things in the right light, and
Right.
let the God show through me and be the best leader that I can be for the young ladies that I'm coaching, and the best daughter and friend, sister, aunt that I can be possibly. And there are days that I struggle, but I try my best to not waste my energy on people who aren't on my bus. You know what I mean? Like, if you're on my bus, we rocking, we rolling. If you ain't on my bus, deuces. You ain't got to be
Right.
on the ride with me.
Right.
But it's not easy, but it's definitely, it's a lot healthier to be positive than negative.
Right. Well, I like this. I don't know who said it, but don't accept criticism from someone you wouldn't ask advice. And to me, that's everything to me, right?
Yes. Oh
And
yeah.
'cause people are constantly going to tell you what you ought to be doing,
Exactly. When
right?
they don't know your struggle, so they can't feel your hustle. That's from a rapper, by the way.
Right. 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 Okay. Yesterday, I didn't get to see you yesterday. We were both at the Sun Belt Conference. Now, I did make a wrong turn because to get to the media area, you had to go through that hallway where tons of high school kids were in there. First and foremost, teachers, admin, educators, that is a calling. Just like going into working with the Lord, if you are not called to work with children, you cannot. I was intimidated when I walked in that hallway. It was crazy. But what does the Sun Belt Conference having all those kids up there? How does that help the community and the individual kid?
I think it's a great opportunity, for our young people well, first of all, part of this, they called it the Sun Belt Educational Day. So
Okay.
it was a whole little session that the students went through. They had the opportunity to go to each of the Sun Belt schools upstairs, and they had like a little college fair. They were able to visit tables, ask questions by, I believe, like admissions individuals that represented each school, which is amazing. The Sun Belt stretches across a good part of the South. So to be able to talk to Appalachian State, Coastal, whoever it may be, to have those schools here and to have the opportunity for our young students here in Escambia County to talk to different individuals who they may never get to meet or even think about, schools that are in the Sun Belt. So that was awesome. They also did an NCAA presentation for them, talking about NCAA requirements, NIL, revenue sharing, the different sports that the Sun Belt offers. So I thought that was great, especially for our student athletes who attended. A
Mhm.
lot of times kids are unaware of, what really comes with being a Division I athlete and the requirements that are needed to be a Division I athlete. And then lastly, there was a guest speaker, motivational speaker, who did a phenomenal job. So before they got to watch the game, it was very educational, great experience in my opinion. So I'm thankful that the Sun Belt continues to put it on. To allow this educational day. This is the second year they've allowed it, but also thankful that the district is allowing us to take a group of students to experience this opportunity. So for me, I think, you can watch a basketball game on television anytime you want,
Mhm.
but to experience that part, to me, is critical for our athletes to continue to be able to do things. Another thing, like you said, watching a game. I mean, to be able to sit and watch a Division I game is amazing. Some people never experience that. And for me, I'm always soaking it in because I'm sitting here like, man, I might see one of these teams in the NCAA tournament. So I think overall, just a great experience for our kids here in Escambia County.
Right, right. Now your season ended recently, and I I was so blown away by the ride your team took me on personally in the city because I mean you did have an injury to Shemaya Francis, and she's obviously one of the best players in the country. That's tough, but you didn't give in. You still won your district. You still kept moving forward. Do you want to talk just a little bit about the season?
Yeah, sure. Most definitely. Man, kudos to our girls. Our coaching staff is phenomenal. I think I work with the best coaches here on this earth. I love those individuals. They're like family to me. Our young ladies were just resilient this year. Kevin, a lot of things people don't know. Wound up losing five, I believe, 5 or 6 games. I could be wrong there. I can't remember exactly. But out of the games that we lost, for one, we lost to no one in the Panhandle, not one team. Um, our only Florida loss was Gainesville High School. And all of our losses, Kevin, with the exception of one, was under 10 points. To me, that speaks volumes of our young ladies and what they're wanting and coming in, locked into the game, and understand the game plan and the things that need to happen. And honestly, I can say this because of how hard our young ladies work. We were in every game, especially our Georgia games. Those games were against two of the top teams in Georgia, private schools at that. I know a lot of times people don't even realize it. And there's a big difference in private schools now and public schools, especially when it comes to athletes and what private schools are able to do. And, that caliber of tournament that we went to in Atlanta, Georgia was phenomenal to have the opportunity for our young ladies to play in front of Division I schools. I mean, you're not going to get that a lot around here. So I thought that it was an outstanding season, another, just another growth year for us. In our Gainesville game, the opportunities were there. They had some phenomenal guards. So I was really, really proud of just the resilience, especially in the end of the season. As you said, Shemaya Francis goes down. And what's interesting as a coach, you don't want to see any player get hurt at all. That's I always tell the girls, and this is true story, Kevin, I do not pray for a win. I say my prayers before my game. I say my prayers at night. I honestly pray, and this is that there's no major injury on either side. I'm so serious. I've had the game taken away from me with a major injury in college when I tore my labrum. So I know how it feels. I don't want to see any player get hurt. And for us to lose Shemaya Francis the week of the district tournament, that took a lot. That took a lot out of us mentally. Of course, physically of what she can do. There was no replacing her. And I mean, you can't replace a kid at 6'3", that is a phenomenal leader, probably one of the best leaders I've ever coached, and averages a double-double and has been for the last 3 years. So there was no replacing her whatsoever. That was never thought in our minds as coaches. Is like, well, who's going to pick up the slack for Shemaya? Because that's not fair to the young ladies on our team to say, hey, I need you to come in, twins, and give us a double-double. No. We just got to step it up. And I thought the girls did phenomenal. Our first game without Shemaya against Mosley, we put up the most points we had all season.
Right.
The most points we had all season. And so I think they had some motivation to play for their teammate, to go out and beat Pine Forest for the third time in the district championship, physical game, just for me, the way our young ladies played without Shemaya was very inspiring. A lot of times you see your best player go down, season goes down. Losing Shemaya was like losing a quarterback. And when you lose a quarterback, right, there's not a lot that, there's not a lot of hope for a lot of teams. And for us to lose the only post player that we have, true post player at 6'3", she's our biggest kid. Our next tallest player is Jada Clary, who we actually start saying in starting lineup is a center because she was the next tallest kid. So I was just blown away, especially in the district tournament, how locked in we were, the mentality that we had, and kudos to our coaches. We changed some of our game plan. We really did. We had to. We went a lot more 5-out, a lot more defensive pressure, full court. using our speed and our guards' athletic ability to our advantage. So overall, yeah, we came up short of a goal we wanted, which was getting to the state finals and playing there. But I mean, Gainesville was a phenomenal team. I take nothing away from them. I do still, like I said, I felt like we were in the game. I felt like we had some opportunities. Can't miss a ton of free throws like we did that night.
Right.
But if we look at all of our losses, I mean, I was just, to go back and you start reflecting on the season, and when you only have one loss of 10 points and the other losses are by less than 7, you have to be proud of those things. And one thing I always tell the girls, and something I live by, is that, we never fail, we learn. Failure is just that opportunity for us to grow. Or as I think I saw, I forgot which coach said it, but I quoted it not too long ago. Failure is just that fertilizer for us to continue to grow. And, the good thing is we have a good portion of the young ladies coming back. I think Jada Clarity, man, she's phenomenal, an athlete, and she works hard. The transfers that we had in this year, they were amazing to come in and to gel with the girls. Nyla Brooks, Lila Jacobs. I just thought the girls they just really gelled together, and they're a great group. And our seniors, they were phenomenal. Tanaya Thompson is a phenomenal young lady. She, this is going to be unheard of what I'm about to tell you. After that COVID year was my worst record year. We went 3-14 that year. Everybody wanted to play me, Kevin. Now nobody wants to play us.
Right.
We'll say that for another day, though.
Mm-hmm.
But everybody wanted to play us. We go 3-14, and we played everybody that wanted to play us. Tonight is the only person that's left from that first year, and she took on the role of taking on the best player offensively. So for me, I told her at the end of the game, and I complimented her and the twins. They came in as 10th graders to us, just sticking it out, believing it and trusting the process and believing us as coaches. So to answer your question, I mean, yeah, we came up short of what we wanted, but what a great season for us. And also the city coming out to support us, and people come to support these young ladies, I thought was phenomenal. 2 years in a row. I don't recall, and I've been here my whole life, and so have you. I don't recall seeing that packed of a gym for girls basketball like we've had the last 2 years in our regional finals. And to me, that's just phenomenal. That's something you'll be able to talk about as a player for years. So I'm just glad that our girls had the opportunity to experience, people from the city coming out to support us and just showing us love and really wanting us to pull through. So I'm thankful for our fans. I call them the Wildcat faithful, for coming out and showing love to our young ladies, especially when we needed it. And we're very thankful for the basketball community here.
Absolutely. Well, for one thing, I notice the way Shema plays, right? She screens when she is doubled, even though a lot of times she's tall enough she could just spin and shoot. She makes the right basketball play. I could watch your team grow through the season. I also notice, like, if you go to a player individually when they make a mistake, or if they just need to know something, a lot of times your coaching staff will turn and explain to the guys that aren't on the court what you're talking about. And that way it seems like your team is constantly growing and evolving because nothing's really a secret. And we're all kind of working towards one another. Is that part of it?
And before Shemaya went out, Shemaya, people don't understand, she's getting doubled. Her numbers were down a little bit for the triple teams that she saw most of the year, not double teams, but she was also leading us in assists. I mean, it just goes to show how unselfish of a player she is and how smart she is. But as I told you before, I think the coaches that I coach with, and I always tell people, it's not my staff. We're a family. We work together. I'm not over them. We work together. And it's something we tell the girls all the time. We're sitting in group chats. We're chatting. We're talking. And sometimes we're not always agreeing. We're going back and forth. Like, what about this scenario? What about this? But I think I have a good nucleus of a staff to where, each of us are different. And no one's trying to be me. I'm not asking anybody to be who I am. But they do a good job of keeping the girls engaged. They know how to approach them in different ways. And I'm very thankful for that they're engaged, that they have time. And the interesting thing is, with the exception of one member of my staff, everybody has kids. So I always tell the girls, I'm like, hey, man, these coaches are sacrificing a lot, they could be pouring into their own child, but they're here pouring into you guys because, like I tell our girls all the time, like the thing that makes me most happiest, Kevin, and I tell my girls is I coach because I want to see them be successful. You know, I've won games, I've lost games, but when I see a kid that started with me their freshman year that couldn't shoot a 3-pointer, and then their senior, they're crossing you over and pulling up for a three. We're talking about one of my former players, Jayla Roberts. Jayla was probably one of the best point guards I've ever had, but she was not known for shooting threes as a freshman. She kind of was more of a get to the basket type of person. And now she's the same kid that has a court named after her here at our school for hitting a game winner all the way back on the other side of ESPN, you know, blew her up and stuff. So for me, it's about that growth, and our coaches feel the same way. Like, we just want to see our girls be successful, but we're not going to take it easy on them. Like, we want them to experience adversity. We try to make our practices so uncomfortable that the game is comfortable. Practice is supposed to be the most challenging thing that we go through the week. And I always tell the girls, I said, yes, Coach Brown is crazy. You got to think about this, guys. I'm coaching a game that I have no control over. I can't shoot it. I can't pass it. I can't do anything. I just got to hope that you guys listen and pray that the shots go in. So we tell them that all the time. Like, you know, yeah, we're a little bit crazy, but we're crazy because we want you to be successful. And I tell them, I say, but y'all a little crazy too. We're practicing 2 hours for a 32-minute game. That doesn't make any sense. But that's what you have to do to be successful. You got to put in the work to get the results that you want. But as I told you, I coach with some phenomenal coaches, but they're even better people. They love the girls. They love the program, and they make my job easy. If I got to step out and go handle some business, I have no doubt in my mind that practice will be fine.
Right. Awesome. Okay. So you brought up a point guard. You are a member of the point guard club. You were a point guard. So let's go back into your background a little bit. You come from an athletic family, right? Your mother is an athlete. Your father was an athlete. Your mother's from here, I believe. Your father's from Mobile.
Yep.
Right. And so you played at Woodham, 4 years varsity. You have a relationship there with that coach. You go to Okaloosa County Community College, which is now Northwest Florida State, which has a great program still to this day. And then you wind up at Long Island University playing, and you say you used basketball. The game didn't.
Oh, yeah. That ball did not use me. And I say that because, and I can say this, there was a moment I got injured my senior year in high school, shoulder injury, nagging, and then freshman year wind up finding out that my labrum is torn. So I sit out my freshman year at Okaloosa, which is now Northwest Florida. And, you know, the game, my mind really changed on how to appreciate the game and what to do. But I fast forward to when I was at LIU. I'm going to school in Brooklyn, New York, no family. You know, I'm a Pensacola kid, you know, from the South, and you're living in New York. I'm living in New York City. And there was a moment where things weren't going well for me, and not academically. I excelled in the classroom. I love living in Brooklyn. I love going to school. I love my teammates, but I wanted to play. And I remember getting like a concussion at some point. My minutes dropped, and you know, I'll be honest with you, I was feeling like every kid. You know, I want to play. I want to play, and I wasn't playing quite a bit, and I was ready to come on home. And you know, my aunt calls one day, and I always tell her this. And she was about to send me a care package. And she says, I'm sitting on the couch. This is a flashbulb memory. I vividly know what I was doing. I'm laying on the couch in the room. I might have been watching General Hospital that day, honestly. And so I'm sitting on the couch, and my aunt calls, and you know, as you say, I'm a pretty vibrant person most of the time, even if I'm answering my phone. And she says, hey, what's your, you know, address and all this and that. She was going to send me a care package. And she was like, what's wrong? And I was like, you know, I'm real just not sounding myself, like nothing. I was like, I think about maybe coming home. And she goes off on me, and she's like, for what? And my aunt played volleyball and ran track at Troy State. Well, at that time, Troy State, and she was a Gulf South Conference volleyball champion, all that. Played at McGill Tulane volleyball. She was a state champion for 4 years, so she's an athlete too. And she coached volleyball in Birmingham for years as a head coach. So she calls me, and we're talking, and I'm like, I'm ready to go home. And she's like, why? And is it too cold? You know, I'm like, nah, that's not a problem. I was like, well, I ain't playing in. I want to play in. So I was like, you get into free education, right? It's like, yeah. Well, what's the problem? It's like, you really want me back in Pensacola? What you know, so you start asking those questions, and I'm like, all right, makes sense. Long story
Mhm.
short, here I am. I stuck it out. I still loved everything. I just had to go through some things. I'm very thankful that I had a family member, and my mom and dad were the same way. You know, you're there to get an education. Like it
Mhm.
wasn't about being a professional player. It was about, you know, again, I wanted to play. Felt like I should have been playing. But I was still a great teammate. I still did all the little things, and I still wind up playing quite a bit. It was
Right.
more in
You
a
average 28
role
minutes a game,
player.
I think.
Yeah, yeah. It was more of a role player role. Whereas, you know, when you're used to being on the floor, that role player role becomes an adjustment.
Mhm.
So I was actually voted most inspirational that year. So it goes to show, like, even though I was feeling that way, I never really showed it. My teammates wouldn't have known it. But if it wasn't for my aunt calling and saying, you know, having that tough conversation of like, hey, you're getting a free education, you're gonna stick this out. And that's what I mean by I use the ball. And because of basketball, I have been able to travel across the United States, done a lot of things. Like I said, kid from Pensacola going to school in Brooklyn. When I played there, we played in Rhode Island, all across the East Coast. We went to Vegas, you know, San Diego.
Right.
And again, I used the ball. Had it not been for basketball, I wouldn't have had those opportunities. So that's what I mean by when I tell kids, my girls, like, hey, I use the ball.
Right.
It got me a free education, and LIU is a private institute in the city. So you already know that was expensive. So yeah, I'm
Yeah.
just thankful and very grateful to have family members, you know, my circle that kept me grounded and kept me, you know, kept it real with me. Like, look, stick it out. It's going to be okay. It's worse things that's happening. You're getting a free education. You don't have to pay for anything. You're good. Get it done. And that's what happened, Kevin. You know, when I say I use the ball, that's what I mean by that.
Right. Well, and also, now you didn't know at the time, but you wound up being a coach. So now you understand what it's like to be the best player. You understand what it's like to be the starting point guard. You understand what it's like to be the person who's not playing a whole lot. And you understand what it's like to be the person to go in there and help out in a couple of defensive situations or whatever it may be. So you understand every role on a ball club. Also, a point guard to some degree is that's a management position. You know, you're pushing the vision of the head coach.
Yep.
You're helping the attitude of the entire team, the way the team plays, the way the team's attitude is on and off the court. All that stems from whoever the point guard is usually. And so all those things are preparing you for what you wind up doing later on as you become a teacher, right?
Yeah, most definitely. And a leader, but it's funny because I have a few friends that actually told me years ago, and my high school coach as well, Coach Godwin, Chris Godwin, who was
Mhm.
at Woodham and at Pine Forest and won state championship. There were people that told me I was going to be a coach, you know, and you kind of run, you know, for a minute, you're like, nah, I'm not going to do that. That's not what I want to do. And I actually think I have to look back. I think in my yearbook, Coach Godwin wrote that in there. And I used to, when we played pickup ball, you know, you had a shirt. I always tuck my shirt in, and I still do quite a bit. And one of my good friends was like, all right, coach, so you're going to coach one day. And I'm like, nah, I'm not coaching. She's like, well, you look like one. So, and that's my good friend, Tamika Kelly, who
Mhm.
played at Pensacola PJC, played at Pine Forest, and she played at West Virginia. So, you know, my good friend, I always mess with her. I'm like, Tamika, you were like one of the first people to say I was going to coach. She was like, oh, yeah, Jay, it was the shirt, should have been the shorts. I'm telling you.
Right.
So, but as you said, I have experienced some things. I kind of guess point guard has always put me in that leadership role to begin with.
Mhm.
So in the classroom, which I love teaching when I was in the classroom and in my AD role, but in every role that I've been in as a leader, I still feel like I'm part of a team.
Mhm.
You know, I always tell, and I kind of get a little, I won't say aggravated, but sometimes some of our coaches say, hey, boss. And I'm like, I ain't your boss. Like, we work together, you know, and I get the respect that they have for me, but I don't feel like I'm a boss as an athletic director. I feel like I work with you. And that's one thing that I like about the principals that I've worked for, Dr. Michael Roberts. He always made you feel like you work with him. Sometimes you can have administrators or bosses that you know that you work under them. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
Mr.
Oh yeah.
Shackle, who's our current principal, like he's big on, you know, we're a family. So for me, I have been very grateful to have people that have been in leadership roles over me that made me feel like I work with them. I had a phenomenal department chair for years before I took over the social studies department, Mr. Walter Gully, another individual that just made me feel like, I work with you. And that's something I try to, instill when I was in the classroom, like, yeah, it's my classroom, but I'm here to help you too. I want you to be successful. And I don't think probably our girls feel that way because, in high school, you're the head coach. So they probably don't feel like they work with me. They probably feel like I'm the coach and I have this authoritative, demeanor. And I think at the high school level, it is a little bit different, whereas college, it gets a little bit more at times democratic. But then when you get to the professional level, it's very democratic. Just look at Jason Kidd not knowing that Kyrie was going to get traded. So you look at all those things. But when individuals leave our program, I think our relationships get a lot more democratic, where they're calling me and we're constantly talking about, I can't tell you how many letters of recommendation I've written for my student, my former players, or just life, conversations we've had. But the point guard position in basketball, and I tell our girls this all the time, if losing a basketball game is the hardest thing you do, your life's going to be great.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like,
Absolutely.
This hurts so bad right now. You think this is the end of the world. Sheesh, your life is going to be good. But Kevin, some of the most challenging things that I have faced in my life have been because of basketball. And I can honestly say probably one of the most challenging things I've personally faced is, watching my grandmother pass on Mother's Day weekend. But basketball, having to sit out a year, work my butt off, ready to play as a freshman, losing games as a coach where you can't control it. The record of a 3-14. That was a tough season. But at the end of the day, it's just basketball. Like I went 3-14 that year, but there was somebody that lost their job. So you know what I mean? Like somebody that lost a mother, a father, a family member, and I was struggling with, man, dang, we're 3-14. I'm doing terrible, But when I go back and I reflect, as John Maxwell said, reflection with experience is the best teacher. Like if losing basketball is the toughest thing that I go through, or being criticized as a coach, it's the toughest thing I go through. I think God has me on the right path to be okay. They talked about Jesus and he died for our sins. Right. So basketball has, I think, prepared me for some of the most challenging moments from people that I deal with, conversations that I have, things that have gone on with me and players or me and coaches. Like it has really shaped me to, well, I'll be honest with you, to be able to handle anything that's thrown my way. Because I've lost basketball games. Whatever you throw at me probably is really not going to bother me much, because I'm like, hey, man, I lost a basketball game. I'm good. You can throw whatever at me. So that point guard role has prepared me to continue to lead as best as possible. But my mom and dad have a lot to do with that as well. My mom played point guard, so she has always told me what a point guard is supposed to be like. So that's probably why it was a little bit easier for me to lead, because I had someone who played that position and knew what it took. And if my mom did not instill in me and teach me how to be a leader, we wouldn't be having this conversation right now.
Right. So you've been from substitute to head of a department to athletic director. Not you head of a department, obviously now as athletic director, but you also head of social studies. You were a psychology teacher. Substitute teaching, that's kind of like being a point guard in a pickup game, right? You're not sure what everybody wants to do. You kind of got to figure out what page we want to be on today, that kind of thing. You just met everybody, right?
Yeah.
But so let's take a quick break, and we're going to come back and we're going to talk a little bit about your role as AD and about the student body in general as we wrap, okay?
Okay.
Welcome back. I am here with Coach A.D. Jade Brown, and we are covering a lot of topics today, and I thank you so much for your time. This is Surrounded by Sports. I'm Kevin Perkins, and do you think, because I'm a big guy on everything you do prepares you for what comes next, right? And you don't know what's going to come next. Maybe waiting tables helps you learn to do compartmentalize, and that helps you at the next job you get, because now you know how to do things in a hurry, but also keep it in focus, right? Would
Mhm.
you think being a history major in, history major is kind of a research thing, right? You research, you formulate ideas. You research, you formulate ideas. Do you think that helped you in the way you were able to, a test in history, they hand you 7 blue books and give you 3 questions and say, fill them up, right?
Those blue books. Oh man, that's a throwback right there. I forgot all about
Right?
those.
If you were young, before they typed in class, you had to fill out blue books. They were little bitty pamphlets. Anyway, so my point to that is, did that help you? They say, hey, you're going to be a psychology teacher, so you're able to pivot and research and learn. And then as a coach, it helps you pivot and research and learn. And your thirst for knowledge and the way you read books. Do you think being a history major added to that?
Oh, yes, most definitely. And I really like that word you use, pivot, because life is about pivoting. You gotta be able to move, you gotta be able to adapt. And when I was in the classroom and I had Coach Benny Washington as my world history honors teacher in high school at Woodham. And I remember the first day of class, he wrote on the board history. But then within the word, if you follow me, you got his story. So he made us like a slash between the S and the T and was like his story. And it was like history is what we want it to be.
Mm-hmm.
And so I remember I used to start off world history with that same concept. Like
Right.
it is what you want it to be. And the interesting thing about, you know, history and being a history major is what you said, the research, like being able to back it up and show like, hey, this did happen. Like there's no running from it. We can't, we can't change history, but we can continue to grow. And I think, which I know we're not talking about, but
Right.
our society now, we're looking like, how are we going to grow? You've got to know your past to get forward. And
100%. 100%.
history, like I said, like the research that you have to do to be able to back it up and support it. Same things with basketball. I got to research, this play. We worked this year, and it was a big concept for us as coaches. We did a lot of 4 out this year and 5 out. And prior to really the 4 out, because I think the 5 out's a little bit more freelance. You get to do what you want. 4 out does require a little bit more thinking on the player's part. So prior to me putting that in this summer, and we put 4 out in this summer, we call it Nova. I was literally studying Jay Wright from
Mm-hmm.
Villanova. Like,
Right.
getting videos. I'm calling some friends of mine. I almost went to a clinic in Montgomery one weekend where the guy who's known for Read and React was there. We wound up having a game in Gainesville that weekend, so I couldn't go. But it was me sending the coaches stuff to where, and we talk about us and the coaches being on the same page. I would send the coaches clips. I'm like, hey, you're teaching this concept today in practice. And in
Right.
this coach, you're going to teach this concept. So we do all those type of things so the girls see us all on the same page. And then me also, passing down again that leadership and that knowledge of like, it's not just me, we all got to be able to teach it. We all got to know it. So being the history buff that I am, I think it's just natural for me to research. And
Right.
I tell the girls all the time, I love basketball. I absolutely love it. It is very challenging for me to watch, not because of how the game is played. I know a lot of people are like, oh, I don't like watching it, whatever. Kevin, I'm sitting here watching and be like, oh, dang, what are they running? And that was a great offense. I have so many bookmarks from Twitter and on my Instagram to where I've saved plays. Like,
Right.
man, can we run that? Can we do that?
Mm-hmm.
So for me, we're always learning
Mm-hmm.
every single day. Like you said, every day is an opportunity to learn. And I'll tell you what, in this AD role, I've learned something new every day.
Right. Right.
You know what I mean? I tell people that all the time. Like, now I tell my coaches this all the time. I may not, I don't want to say my coach, I tell our coaches here on staff, like if they ask me a question, hey, how does this work? If I don't know the answer right away, best believe I'm going to find out how to get that answer for you.
Right.
And I'm reading a new book now. I'm reading the book Jade Brown was reading on the sideline. Oh, man. They made a big post about him reading on the sideline. So I just started reading. Wonderful book, by the way, Kevin.
Right.
And
Right.
one of the first quotes that really jumped out at me and said something like, it's not about the problem. It's about how you think about the problem. And
Mm-hmm.
so you've got to be ready to grow from every situation that you go through.
Right. Right. Situations don't happen to you; they happen for you.
Oh, yeah.
If you take the right, and being a psych, flipping over into psych probably helps in the AD role as well. How what what is your philosophy on the student body in general? Because I'm pretty sure I know what it is because you're so inclusive in the way you operate anyway, as an AD or just as a teacher?
Well, I am a lot more disconnected now than I
Mm-hmm.
was in the classroom because I'm not seeing kids all the time, but I try to continue to make that connection. There's a student of mine that gave me a quote. I need to post it in my office. And she said, people often criticize us, but they forget who's raising us.
Mm-hmm.
And for me,
100%. The youth of today,
yeah,
right?
you know, and I think for me, my mindset is that you can reach one, you can teach one, or teach one, reach one, however it goes. And I think that there are a lot of, I'm gonna give you one word, love.
Mm-hmm.
And when kids know that you love them and you care for them, they will do anything for you. I don't care who you are or what you do, but that's just not a child. That's us as individuals.
Mm-hmm.
I always tell everybody relationships are so important and critical to just the development of who we are as human beings. And I believe that as I talk and see different kids, and like I said, I'm not as connected as I once was 3 years ago because I was in the classroom, so I was very hands-on. Now I see kids, in bunches. I don't know every student, not like I always knew, but I had on average 100 some kids a day. So I did have a connection, whereas now I'm kind of seeing a lot more kids in passing or learning kids because they are athletes. But I do, when I'm in the hallways, try to remain connected and have conversations. But when I say love, I think some of them are missing that and they want it, but they don't know how to get it. And I think that's our job. Our calling is to love on them and when I say love on them, but hold them accountable too. Like our parents, tough love was what we needed. And sometimes I don't think young people now are consistently getting the tough love. So when, if my mom said, no, you couldn't go to a party on a certain part of town, you're mad at first, you know what I mean? But it's like, hey, Kevin going, he grew up with me. Why can't I go?
Yeah.
And my mom goes, well, I ain't Kevin mama, So, but in the same token, she's protecting me from something, and knowing like, hey, that ain't where you need to be. And for me, as I watch young people, and we try to tell our girls all the time, we tell our players all the time, we love them because I really want them to know that. I tell my coaches that, like, I love you guys. I appreciate you. And I think the more that we can show love to young people, I think we'll start seeing some changes in them. And they want to be disciplined. A lot of times people feel like, oh, young people want to be disciplined. They want structure, but sometimes they're not consistently getting it. And so sometimes you see that, that struggle there. But I just think the mindset is, technology has changed a lot, of course, for the good and the bad. And the kids want relationships. And that's something I'm trying to continue to do, especially in this position. I feel like sometimes I'm disconnected. So I make it a point that if I'm walking in the hallways or if I'm on my lunch duty, to have conversations with kids that are non-athletes. Like, how's your day going? I have one kid that I talk with every single day during lunch, every single day, and just asking, how's your day going? And last year I had 2 seniors, I called them my lunch buddies because we talked and we ate lunch together on my lunch duty. So I think just that, showing that love, and I always tell our girls, like, love is an action word. And I know when you love me. And so we just got to continue to show that love and let them know we're here for them to be as successful as possible.
Right. And because of the way the world works now, because of social media and things like that, if we aren't actively putting positivity out there on a one-on-one basis in person and in other ways like your Jade Chronicles and things like that, they're going to find relationships elsewhere. And those may not be the ones you want them to find.
Exactly. 100%. I agree with you. Yes, sir.
So just, love them if you can. And love is also, unconditional love does not mean no requirements.
Yeah. It's got to be intentional. You know what I mean? It has to be intentional. And that was one of our word. Well, that's my word this year. I pick a word every year. And that's my word. I don't do a New Year's resolution. I do a word. I got it right here on my desk, and I try to keep that. And that was one of our things this year as a team, is like, be intentional on what you're doing, be direct, be meaningful, be consistent. And kids know, I always say this, if anybody can point out a fake dollar bill, it's a kid.
Right.
They know if you're fake and if you're keeping it 100, they have that spidey sense of like, nah, you're not keeping it real right now. And then they know when you are real. So, and that's something special about being a young person.
Exactly. Let's wrap on that. Let's be intentional. Thank you so much for your time.
Oh man, appreciate you.
I want to talk to you about so much, Coach. So hopefully I get to have you back, or at least do little bits and pieces interviews here and there. But thank you so much for coming on, and I appreciate you, folks. Thank you for watching. This has been a Surrounded by Sports podcast, and we'll see you later.